we closed about 1 month ago. And we have collected the point of view of more than 1,200 industry professionals from the automotive industry, not just in this region, but globally. The survey was about this region, but we collected feedback from respondents coming from 92 countries. It was a 10-minute survey, quite articulated, quite long, and the idea was to collect the point of view of professionals about the key trends that this industry is going through in this moment, and the point of view of business professionals for the next 5, 10, 15 years. As I said, the respondents are spread all over the world. We have a 37% coming from that are based in the UAE, but we also have 17% from the Middle East, 16% from Asia, 12% GCC, Africa, Europe. People that responded are primarily distributors, 30%. We had 23% of manufacturers, 14% of service providers, also 14% of import-export professionals, 10% of wholesaler, and 7% of retailers. So we really had the point of view of the entire industry as a whole. Very important is that 50% of respondents have a decisive role when it comes to decision making. Plus we have an additional 33% of people that has either contributed to the decision or have an advisory role. So to get started, we asked the first question: how do you see the next 5 years of the automotive aftermarket in the Middle East? And this is in general, this is not about their company. And we provide 3 options, either up, business as usual, down, or an alternative option that is new technologies offering new opportunities. And this is actually the one that has been selected the most. So there is change, but also there is opportunities there that professionals see. It's interesting to see that there is only 11% of professionals that see the Middle East going down in the next 5 years, with a 27% that see the market to be, let's say, business as usual, and an encouraging 25% that see the market going up. We also asked which automotive product and service will face disruption the most in the Middle East. The number 1 is parts and components. 55% of respondents mentioned this is going to face some serious disruption in the coming years. It's a multiple choice question, so people could select more than one. Electronics and systems came number 2, repair and maintenance number 3. Then we went a little bit more in depth. We don't have too much time this morning, but if we look at parts and components, powertrain is the one that is going to be disrupted the most. 58% of professionals say this is the element that is going to be disrupted the most. For electronics and systems, it's the engine electronics that is going to change the most, and then we have the electrical system, 12-volt electrical system, following by 25% distance. The third one, repair and maintenance, everything that has to do with workshop equipment and tools is going to be disrupted a lot, and we will see later on the point of view of garages that are doing business in this region, what their point of view is. So again, when you think about the next 5 years, what expectation do you have for your business? So this is not the market in general. This is their own business, and either it's going to be business as usual with minor changes or major changes. Now what's interesting is that major changes was selected by pretty much 50% of all interviews, and as we said, it's 1,200 respondents. The other interesting thing is, if we compare this with the survey we conducted last year, we have the exact same survey 1 year ago, we see that the trend is for a shrinking number of people that are saying it's going to be business as usual. So there is more and more a feeling that the market is going through a change. Service providers are the ones that agree the most the market is going to change. Only 20% of service providers think the market will not face change in the next 5 years. Whereas the result is very different for import, export and wholesaler, where we have more than 35% of professionals that say that business is going to be as usual in the coming 5 years. Also, if we look at it by region, and this is the region from which the respondents are coming from, and they're talking about the Middle East, people that are based in UAE UAE, Europe, Africa, and Asia, more than 50% of them see major changes ahead. Whereas people that are based in the Middle East, only 38% of them think there is going to be major change in the Middle East. So we said that 28.6% don't expect changes in the future. As a result, 71% expect changes over the next 5 years. And we asked what would be the reason for these changes. Number one, it's changes in the automotive technology as a whole. About 2/3 of respondents. Again, this is a multiple choice. They could select more than one. Number two came regular political economic improvement and slowdowns. Number three, customer behavior. It's interesting to notice that change in the automotive technology is down 10 points from last year. Whereas the irregular political economic improvements or slowdown seem to be more important this year than it was last year, still in second place. Now, we see that 64% are expecting this change to come from the change in the automotive technology. So we asked, do you have a good understanding of how those changes look like? And it's only 39% that actually know where, actually say, yes, I do have a good idea of where these changes is coming from. If we compare this with last year, we don't really see much of a change. It was 40.5, so just 1 point different from last year. So nothing has really changed in the last 12 months. We see that wholesalers and distributors seem to be the one that better know what the changes look like. Also, the closer you are to the Middle East, the more you seem to be aware of how the changes look like in the Middle East, which is something that I guess we all would expect. So we go from the 50% from the Middle East, 40% UAE, and less than 25% in Africa and Europe. So only 39% have a good understanding of what these changes look like. So we ask, are you prepared to face these changes? And it comes out that 66.5%, 2/3 of respondents that know exactly what the changes look like are claim to be actually ready to face these challenges. With 30.7% that actually say, okay, we do have a good understanding, but we are not ready yet. The 66.5% is up 10 points from what it was last year. It was 55%. And as a result, people that are less certain about what these changes, that are not sure of having a good understanding of what these changes look like, was 42% last year. It's 31% this year. The ones that are more ready, again, wholesaler and import-export. The ones that are less ready, service provider, 1 out of 3. So which upcoming technology do you think will challenge petrol, diesel in the Middle East? So we change topic now. We move from petrol, diesel to alternative fuels and technologies. And the 1,200 respondents say electric vehicles are the technology that will challenge petrol, diesel the most. This is a single choice. You can choose only one. Which one would it be? Electric vehicls. It was 47% last year. It's 51.2% this year. Hybrid vehicles, slight decrease as a result from 32.6 to 30.6. The other categories, I would say, are minor. And if we ask professionals, by when do you expect this technology to be widely accepted or common in the Middle East? Almost 70% that say that it's already happening, or it's going to be within the next 5 years that this is going to be widely accepted or common in this region. Here we see a strong increase in the speed of this change compared to just 1 year ago. 1 year ago it was just 56% saying it's going to be within the next 5 years. Now it went up by 11 points. And the hybrid vehicles that were number 2 are actually the ones that are going to be widely accepted or common faster, sooner with respect to electric vehicles. So we have an average of 3.5 years for hybrid and 4.3 for electric vehicles. And when we ask where do you see bigger changes, passenger vehicles are leading the way to these alternative and new technologies more than commercial vehicles. Have your customers started approaching for products and services for non-petrol diesel vehicles. Again, we see a slight increase from last year. 44.4% of respondents say that their company has been asked or approached for products that have to do with alternative fuel vehicles, up from 42.6% last year. It is more so for manufacturers than it is for retailers. So retailers is less than 40%, manufacturers more than 45%. Also, companies that are based in Asia, Europe, other would be North America and Australia, so say mature markets, have been approached more than companies that are based in Middle East, Africa and GCC. The UAE are kind of in between. So, as we said, we do have a focus on garages and workshop. First question we asked is your workshop or garage equipped to service the needs of alternative fuel vehicles? And the result is 45% of companies, of garages, claim that their garage is equipped and ready to serve these vehicles. What is interesting is that then we asked a change in vehicle technology requires the workshop and garages to invest in new equipment, tools and training well in advance. So what's your situation? And here we have that only 13.6% actually have already invested and are prepared to cater for this new segment. Whereas 61.5% say we have not yet invested in new equipment for electric vehicles, and 35% say we know what's going to be needed, but we haven't done the investment as yet. The 13.6% that actually have already invested in dedicated technology and training expect a return from this investment within the next 5 years. So about 90% expect to have a return on the investment they made within the next 5 years. So conclusions, I guess I will leave it to each one of you. It could be the investment is not too relevant at the moment for the investment that was done, or there is really higher profits, higher margins on this technology. Future of automotive aftermarket in the Middle East. So in which time frame do you expect a notable change in the automotive aftermarket due to technology change? And we see that about 60% agree that it's going to be within the next 5 years, with a peak that say 5 years, not more than those that say just in a couple of years. And we don't see relevant differences from what we collected 1 year ago. We also asked within the next 5 years, how many cars on the road will have alternative fuel technologies? Now, we provide, before I show you the chart, we provided as options 0%, 10%, 20%, 30%, and so on, up to 100%. This is the distribution. The way to look at this is either to sum up whatever is above 70%, below 30%, or we calculated the average of all this. So the average says that all over the world, including UAE, including Asia, including Europe, people expect 44.2% of cars in Dubai to have alternative fuel technologies within 5 years from now. This percentage drops to 40.8% in the UAE, so it seems there is Dubai dragging, pushing up the percentage for the UAE. And then we have Saudi Arabia, GCC, and the Middle East that have between 30 to 35%. What are your predictions for the market share of alternative fuel vehicles in the Middle East by 2030? And what is interesting here is that we grouped all the responses that were given less than 30%, let's say 30 to 50% or more than 50%. Not much change compared to last year for the more than 50%, but the percentage of people saying it's going to be at least 30% has increased from 46.4% last year to 51% this year. What are the forces that will drive alternative fuel technology change? The Number one is new technology to be cheaper than existing technology. So we offered respondents 5 options. They could say it's going to be very relevant, important, somewhat relevant, not relevant at all. So we just take the top 2 options and sum them. New technology to be cheaper than the existing one. Number 1, car manufacturer. Number 2, government policy, also very important, with 56% of respondents saying either 4 or 5 out of 5. And finally, when do you expect to see autonomous vehicles on the road? It's not going to be within the next 2 years. Only 18% expect to see at least one autonomous vehicle on the road in their country. But within the next 5 to 10 years, yes, that's the time frame. People do not expect this to come in 25-year time. So to recap what we saw today, last slide, there's optimism about the future. So there are new challenges, but also new opportunities. 71% expect the business to face changes in the next 5 years. It was 69% 1 year ago. And 50% basically expect these changes to be major. The change in the automotive technology is the key reason for these changes. And only 39% of respondents claim to have a good idea of what the market is going to change, of how the market is going to change in the region. But 2/3 of these say the company is ready to face the changes ahead, up from 55% last year. Electric vehicles, more than hybrid, will challenge petrol-diesel ones, with passenger vehicles leading the change. Only 13% of garages and workshops have already made specific investment in new equipment, tools, and training to tackle the changes to alternative fuel vehicles, and expect a return on investment within the next 5 years. 83% expect the market share of alternative fuel vehicles to exceed 30% by 2030 in the Middle East. And this is up from 77.6% in 2018, and the main driver for this being new technology to be cheaper than the existing one, with Dubai and the UAE expected to lead this change. Thank you very much.